Hi friends, please like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel.
Let's talk some YouTube thumbnails. Hey, this course is all about audience growth, and if you want to grow an audience, you need people clicking through to your videos. So this section of the course, all about thumbnails, is going to entice people to click through. I am trying to improve your click-through rate. I'm going to be introducing you to a tool called Canva to design all your thumbnails. Quick blog post that they have created over here with some thumbnail samples. I'm not going to go ahead and read that to you, but I'm going to pick out some of my favorites from here before we delve into the tool. Just looking around, what do all of these thumbnails have in common? At least most of them. I'm going to show you my favorite ones for a growth formula. I like this one because it's big. It's showing landscape. It's anything big, you know that saying, go big or go home. If you're going to show a massive, beautiful landscape and it's relevant to what you're doing, it's going to look great. You want to entice people to click. It's eye-catching, but again, it has to be relevant. Somebody needs to click for Amsterdam, correct? Now, if we're looking at some other videos, there are other ways to get people to click. Brightness as in lights. If you can use lights and colors, it's going to stand out among other thumbnails. So what I really like about this is the light in the background. It looks like these people were shot with a portrait lens. The background's blurry, it's extremely bright. You have 3 different colors here. I love this thumbnail. This thumbnail is close to perfect. It's a little bit dark around the edges. These faces may appear a little bit washed out because the thumbnail is much smaller. Our thumbnail is only going to be about this big on YouTube, around this big or smaller. So again, it's not my favorite, but there are some great things that this does. Now, this I think looks good. It looks good when it's blown up like this, but again, this color over here, my summer lookbook, it's kind of dull, and you know, a lot of this picture is orange and yellow. This is going to get washed out, but it does look very nice. I do think this picture, it's a little bit faded. If you ever used Instagram and used, a faded filter, you know what I'm talking about. I don't like faded thumbnails, unless you're going with a specific aesthetic. Faded thumbnails don't appear, because they're so small, they don't appear as bright and as, saturated. So I really recommend you use a more saturated thumbnail. Now, TED Ed, cartoons, people really like clicking on cartoons and caricatures. And a big reason for that is, they just make us happy. If you think back to when you're a kid, see, School of Life here does it for branding, but if you think back to when you're a kid, cartoons are associated with lightheartedness, and we love to watch animation. So if it's relevant to what you're doing, you can include cartoons as well. The School of Life always does animation, so again, this is a consistent part of their branding. So there's just some tips of what makes a good thumbnail, but if I were to narrow it down, I recommend bright and highly saturated. Lights are amazing, so bright in these fonts. Large lettering, always use large lettering. Use brightness. Try to get more light on these faces. Don't use washed out images and faded filters unless it's cohesive with your entire branding. Cartoons and animations work very well if it's a part of your branding or there's animation inside of the video. Large landscapes are great. I really like colors, like not just this color particularly, but the way that they did the purple. If you zoom in on it, it's not just one consistent, boring purple. This purple looks like it's I wouldn't say texturized, but you see this is a very simple type of blue, but this is a very deep purple, and you see we have heavy focus of lighting and saturation here, and the color gets a little bit darker and it gets lighter again. You have a good light in the background, which is very eye-catching. Again, these people are highly saturated, so BuzzFeed Violet has done an amazing job here. The white lettering stands out incredibly among the background. I would even see this season 2, I would make this a little bit more bold. Again, this is a standard Canva thumbnail. You can hover all of these and actually click them and create your thumbnails. But in the next lecture, we're going to be talking about how to create thumbnails with Canva, how to make an account. It's all totally free. If you've used Canva before, I will teach you how to use it even better and apply some of the tips and techniques that I've been using, because I really want you to create those thumbnails to increase that click-through rate and get that audience watching your content. So let's get started with Canva. In order to get started with a Canva thumbnail creator, you want to head on over to canva.com. That's www.canva.com. So once you head on over to canva.com, you'll be prompted with this login. What I recommend you do is, if you just hit login there, it'll take you to a sign-in page. Just bam, takes you to the sign-in page. You can log in with your Facebook or log in with Google, and we all know that Google is connected with YouTube. So if you hit Google, all you have to do is, I'm gonna log into my Google account right here, and we are signed in, and it's totally safe. They're not going to, steal your account or anything. You're giving them permission just to access your account to log in. And look at this. That's my YouTube audience growth course thumbnail. Look at that. So right there, you can create anything that you want. I've created, I think, my top universities in Canada thumbnail using Canva. But what you can do is just find any YouTube thumbnail. If you want to get started, when you're here, click on Create a Design. Again, top left corner, Create a Design, and then you want to scroll down and you want to look for YouTube thumbnail. If you can't find it, just type in YouTube thumbnail. Click on it. It's 1280 pixels by 720 pixels. Then what you're going to do is just simply choose a thumbnail. So I'm going to teach you how to take something like this and make it 10 times more exciting. So again, this looks nice. It's pretty cool. This looks nice too. So all these thumbnails look great. Actually, I really like this one. But if you want to find, let's say, a video about, we keep using the plumbing example, so let's do plumbing. I haven't really seen any plumbing YouTubers. So what I want you to do is when finding your thumbnail, if you're not going to use one of your pictures or a still frame, use Google Images. Again, I'm not condoning that you take content that's copyrighted, read YouTube's copyright, and also see if you can license some images. But if you can, try to find some images that are HD. So plumbing, you can even do like desktop wallpapers, because those are always like really eye-catching and fancy. So you're going to look for a plumbing desktop wallpaper, and let's see what template we're using. We're using this template. So let's change this one so we have more space, because I don't want this text to get lost, in all this pipe work that we're doing. And we want to find the brightest image we can. So again, plumbing, it's often very dull. You just have like old sinks and stuff. So what you want to do is pipes, artwork. Just keep looking till you find a nice bright image. Plumber HD. Okay, so we're getting a little bit better here. I like this. You have the red, you have the steel. It looks pretty good. So we're going to save the image as. It's just going to save. I'm using Google Chrome, so it's going to save in this left-hand corner. All I have to do, head back on over to my template, choose a template I'm going to use. I can drag this in. It'll simply upload just like that. All I'm going to do is, once the image is uploaded, take it and drag it here. Plumbing at home. We're going to change the font a little bit. It's way too small. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. You want to make sure it can be seen by your audience. You can even change the plumbing to make the plumbing smaller and keep the rest of the text larger. So you want the plumbing to be able to fit. So we're going to keep playing around with that until it does. Drop it to 64. There we go. You can do plumbing at home. You can grab that. You can even make this larger. Like, you can keep resizing this until this looks good. You can do plumbing at home like that and make the font even larger. So plumbing at home. You might want to make that smaller, so keep playing around with it. But as you can see, we're going for bright images over here. And even the background, what I like to do sometimes is drop like these pictures just as bright as I possibly can. So I'll look up things like, flashy image or particle explosion and stuff like that. So I was doing a video about YouTube, I would drag this over the particle explosion, just because it looks so eye-catching. So it's one of the tools that I use. Again, this plumbing thumbnail may not be the best one in the world. You want to keep fiddling with it until you see something looks eye-catching, like that explosion. So let's keep moving, and this is really the process of creating something with Canva. It's not flawless, but again, if you do this in the correct way, adventures, I kind of like that thumbnail. We're gonna remove the background. The text is still there. We're gonna look up our uploads and our images, and we're gonna drag one of these images in the background. We're gonna go to positioning, and we're gonna go backwards. As you can see, adventures is over this background. And you can play around with the font so that it becomes, more visible. I can put adventures there, I could put adventures in the corner, I can even change this font to make it a lot thicker. Like that. So adventures, it's a thicker font now. And as you can see, just keep playing around with the thumbnail until you find something that works for you. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I like adventures over there. So I do content about Canada, so I can do like adventures. I can put adventures in the corner over here, and I can actually do that, and I can spin this around and put that up here. So I can do adventures, and then I can do you know, a PNG image or a background image and just drop that in. I can make it YouTube adventures. So I'll drop that here. I have YouTube, then I have the word adventures here. I have YouTube adventures. We might want to make that font a little bit darker so we can see it. And bam, YouTube adventures. Again, keep playing around with it so that it looks good. See, that looks great. Someone will click on this thumbnail for sure. And if you add a face, you know, a shocked face or another PNG image, somebody's going to click on that. So keep using those visual effects to your advantage. Go check out Canva, keep playing around with this. If you have any other questions, again, PNG images you can search on Google, and they're just transparent background images. Again, like our course thumbnail over here, full transparency, bam, like that. It's that simple. You just keep adding onto it until you've created that perfect thumbnail. Again, this was a bit of a longer lecture, but I didn't want to, you know, break it down into bullet points. I wanted to actually show you the entire process that I use when creating a thumbnail. It's really about dragging it around, experimenting until it looks right to your eye. There's no particular rule, but a lot of the methods I'm mentioning to you is, again, use those explosive over-the-top backgrounds, but you need to make sure it's visible, okay? You need to make sure that the thumbnails you're using, you can actually see what's in the background and see the text. Biggest part of it, use big, bright, bold lettering and try to bring people in to click on your thumbnails. Here are my tips for creating great thumbnails on YouTube. This is a very small document, but I'm going to make it available and downloadable in the resources section of this video lesson. So go ahead and download it if you are on Udemy. If you are not and you are somehow consuming this video, then it's not going to be downloadable, but you can just take a screenshot of this image or write it down yourself. So by creating great thumbnails on YouTube, this is, okay, obvious stuff. I get it, but I want to actually narrow it down and teach you about some of the nuances. I'm actually going to get to that right here that other creators won't tell you about. Something that I've used in marketing and that I highly recommend. Again, I don't really have the correct words or precision of language to articulate it, but I'm going to show you and I think you'll understand. So the biggest thing I found as a basic building block, as a fundamental to creating a great thumbnail, is using bright colors for backgrounds. And not just bright colors. Alright, yeah, bright colors are more noticeable, but deeper, more complex colors. I just looked up the color purple. And you can use a deep purple. This could be considered a deep purple, you know. This is deep purple, this is maybe not a deep purple. But when I'm talking about deep colors, I mean colors like this. I mean colors that are just like, there's high contrast, super high quality, flashes, neon. Neon is a great color that you can implement, and you can use neon purple, neon blue, neon green. You can use any sort of neon. Again, that's a little bit too crowded and cluttered, but something like this sort of background, if you can make it relevant or even add filters to your images to get this sort of spark and shine and flare, combined with these other elements that I'm going to show you, will actually result in a higher click-through rate. Something that I've not really been doing with many of my videos. I've just been using tools to, you know, auto-generate thumbnails. But if you really want to go big with your content and focus on doing YouTube full-time, this is a great way to capture attention because it looks mesmerizing. So use deeper, more complex colors, but not complex as in like that's a darker shade of purple, I'm going to use that one. Really leverage using flashy content. It's almost like propaganda for your content, you know, creating amazing thumbnails that people go, wow, that flare, that explosion. It's hard to make a video that does such flashy images justice, but that's what you want. So our next step is choosing high contrast photos. Lower contrast is going to result in the image looking very flat, something like this color over here. It's not about contrast, but having different colors, as you see, it goes from light to dark here. You want those differences. You have really bright, really dark, that contrast within the image itself is going to capture attention. This image itself doesn't have too much contrast, as you can see. You want higher contrast. So people, as they're navigating through thumbnails, are going to be like, whoa, what's that over here? Depth. Depth is something I actually haven't added to this list, but depth of field is really important, and that's something we saw in that Amsterdam photo, is that depth of field. So depth of field is something that if you want to capture with your camera, you can use like a 50mm lens or a portrait lens to blur out the background. But depth of field is also something that's going to give a whole new dimension to your thumbnails. So let's scroll back up. Use big bold letters for titles, that's common sense. But if you can get, drop shadows on your titles. So let's look up, instead of just a regular title, like herbs over here, it's very flat, you can throw drop shadows on your title. So as you can see, this 2016 title has a shadow in the background, kind of. That's going to generate, it's going to be bigger, it's going to be capture more attention. You see these titles that actually have a three-dimensional aspect to them. These aren't the best examples, obviously, but you can kind of see in this image. You want to avoid thin lettering like this. This is a drop shadow in the background, but if you're going to do a drop shadow in Photoshop, and I'm not going to teach you that in this course, okay? It's not a Photoshop course, we can't go too deep into it. But if you want to know how to create a drop shadow, there are teachers on Udemy that will teach you, and it is all over YouTube. It's just one example of the many things that you can do, but in order for us to keep focused with growing your audience, we're going to talk about, the other steps and the other measures. If you have a specific question, so if I show you something and you want me to reiterate or go deeper and be more involved with it, let me know, because I can't do that for everybody, but I can certainly do it for you as an individual if that's what you need. So don't feel like if I haven't touched on something, just let me know and I'm happy to go ahead and do that. But incorporate drop shadows, bold titles, thickness to your text, using saturated images over faded images, we've touched on that one, and have something shocking or interesting happen. We're talking about the technical elements so much, but have something shocking or interesting happening. Like, wow, my apartment caught on fire. Have your shocked face. Use expression and emotions. Human faces are likely to get more clicks than just the apartment on fire if that's what happened. Don't clickbait and do fake things, but if your apartment caught on fire a little bit but didn't burn down, you can still exaggerate the thumbnail to make it look like that happened. It's not journalism that we're doing here. We're creating YouTube videos and trying to grow an audience. So have something shocking or interesting happen in your thumbnail. Always tell the truth and deliver in the video, but you can exaggerate within the thumbnail itself. An action within your thumbnail is going to result in more clicks. Have action happen in your thumbnail. If you don't know what that means, an action is somebody doing something, and if you have somebody doing something for a reason, that's even better. So Bob is throwing a ball for his dog. Action happening in the thumbnail. Another one, your apartment is catching on fire. That's action in the thumbnail. The fire is, burning your apartment. That's an action. The fire is doing something for a reason because you left the stove on. So these are things that are going to generate more clicks. A very simple list, but I think I've, explained it deeply enough. I'm going to attach this to the course material. If I have not attached it, either write it down or take a screenshot. Very simple list. It's going to go a long way.